Again, we are over $3,000 in the $1,000 challenge, where I try to grow $1,000 as fast as I can. And you, my friend, you are listening to the StockInvest.us podcast Trading Tips with Jim as we head into week 29. And this week's podcast will be a short one. After all, we are in the summer. It is slow mood. And last week was somewhat slow. Nasdaq and the Dow Jones and S&P 500 all only had minor gains or losses. To be more exact, Nasdaq was down 0.08% and Dow Jones was up 0.2%, while Standard & Poor was down 0.3%, so marginally changed for the major indexes. Anyway, a new week is here and I will tell you what I think will happen in the week ahead of us. First off, I will be away for the next 2 weeks, so this will be the last podcast for a little while. Anyway, the week will not wait for anyone, and it will be a week where most eyes will be on the Consumer Price Index, which will come on Tuesday. The expectations is that inflation will increase from 2.8 till 2.9% 12 months over 12 months, and being 0.2% for June. Wednesday will be followed with the producer price index, the cost for the producers, which is expected to be 3.2% year over year, going up from 3 last month to 3.2% year over year. But we do know that lately the economists have been wrong, and we can be caught on the bed with better numbers than expected. One thing many people seem to forget is that for a long period after Christmas we had very low oil prices and energy in general was cheap. But there is a fair chance that we might end up on the other side, that the tariffs, etc. finally will start to show, and inflation actually will be on target or even higher. No matter what happens, I don't think these things will trigger any rally unless inflation is extremely good. Or, in the other hand, if inflation is very bad, we can have a strong downturn. Instead, I think it will be the new quarter season. Again, we just went out of Q1 reports. Now we are getting all the Q2 reports, how the bigger company did during Q2. And first out will be all the major banks, and I think if these come in as expected, we can see a slight green week. Overall, I think it will be a red week. That is my guess, and I will argue why in just a little bit. The quarter results that will come, and there will be quite many of them, will be led by the major banks. We will have JP Morgan on Tuesday, followed by Wells Fargo. We will even have BlackRock and Citigroup also on Tuesday. Among these, maybe Wells Fargo is the one that is expected to move the most based on the quarter results. You can bet on this if you are able to get your bet correct. You can expect a move of 4.13% up or down on the Wells Fargo numbers. All three of these are expected to deliver positive results, meaning that their earnings per share is supposed to increase anywhere from 2 to 7% for the four companies that I mentioned, the four banks that I mentioned. They are expected to deliver positive earnings. A company which many people will be very excited to follow is Ericsson, and Ericsson is expected to grow their earnings quite drastically from $0.01 or 1 cent to 12 cents earnings per share also on Tuesday. Wednesday will be followed by Johnson & Johnson, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, United Airlines, and Alloco, to mention some, a lot of big companies. And what I noticed when looking at the numbers is that the banks still are expected to go upwards. For instance, Goldman Sachs is expected to deliver a earnings per share of 9.43, up 9% from the 8.62 dollars earnings per share last time. But looking at United Airlines and Johnson & Johnson, we are going back to consumers here, they are both expected to deliver negative results. Johnson is supposed to have a loss, a reduction in earnings per share by 6%, down to $2.65 per share. United Airlines is supposed to have a 7% drop in earnings per share. Netflix, however, which will come on Thursday, will be much more interesting because they are expected to deliver 44.7% upturn in their earnings from $4.88 per share all the way up to $7.05. Will Netflix be the one that will show the way next week? I'm not sure. The swing is only expected to be 3.9%, while previous was a big swing on every quarter result for Netflix. It is expected to be less now, meaning that maybe Netflix is starting to stabilize. Then there will be a Taiwan Semiconductor, another company which is very interesting, expected to grow their earnings by 60%. GE Aerospace up, expected earnings to increase by 18%, and they will for sure pave some way. You have to remember all the bets into the war industry and all the production. Novartis is expected to also go up by 21%, while PepsiCo, another consumer company, is expected to have a reduction of 11% in their earnings from $2.28 last time per share down to $2.05 per share. So we see banks are expected to do nice during the week, while consumer is expected to go down. Everyone is betting that consumers are saving their money. These things, together with inflation, will tell a lot about what is expecting moving forward. I think that maybe PepsiCo, for instance, will surprise many. We will see. The expectation is that their earnings will go down. And just that being said, if you are a new listener and if you are not too deep into this world, if a company, despite earnings going down, if it meets the expectations, usually the stock can even go up because this is already accounted or discounted, as they say, into the current price. So if PepsiCo come in, let's say $2.06, $2.07 dollar per share and have a reduction of 8%, they still can go quite much up. Netflix, however, if Netflix is not able to reach the $7 per share, which is expected, I believe Netflix can be in for a downturn. So since I have to give you some bets to make this interesting, my bet is that Netflix will fall during the week, while PepsiCo will go up during the week. But both of them will be on Thursday, so there will not be much left of the week. But that following their quarter results, I think that we will see Netflix going down, PepsiCo going up. And I promised you that I will give you a short reasoning why I think it will be a red week. First off, we had such a nice period. Anyone that listened to the podcast, and I recommend you to do that, like, subscribe, of course, if you like it. I told you that I thought markets would go high to set new all-time highs, and they are doing. I also warned you last week that I think we are at a temporary top, where I don't want to give you stocks to buy simply because I think market is a little shaky, and I'm personally reducing my exposure into the market. If you want deeper insight into this, just go back to last week's, the previous podcast, and you will hear me say why and how. Anyway, I think what we will have is just a normal reaction. It doesn't have to be much, can only be a -% for the entire week. Can be 3%. I do not see any way we will have major fall unless some geopolitical issues is triggering something really bad. Otherwise, I just see a total natural reaction where Nasdaq, in my opinion, worst case, can go down to 19,500 before bouncing up. It will be total naturally after this nice upturn. Everything in the charts tells me that Nasdaq will head for 25,000 points. that is also where I put my bets. What does the StockInvest buy and sell signal says? Well, they say that 46% of all stocks analyzed are showing buy signals. We are getting very, very high. Nasdaq 22%, meaning there is plenty of room in Nasdaq. I also argued why I think the second and third followers in Nasdaq will start to rise, which are the typical shares that most of you have. Meta and the Magnificent Seven, all of them has been rising strongly. Now I think other stocks will do good. Novartis could be one of them. A lot of biotech shares I think will see a good period moving forward. Of course, more volatile, but in general, Nasdaq is the one that is showing to have the best opportunities among all markets we analyzed so far. New York Stock Exchange, 48% buy signals. London, also 48, both of them are down from over 50 last week, and the week was a little red. Oslo 47, Frankfurt also 47. National Stock Exchange of India is 38, while Tokyo 51, and Shenzhen, China is 60. In general, we are on the high end, and we can see some of the Western European ones are starting to slightly fall, and I think it will continue, giving another argument for why I think we will have a red week. Another number that people will follow is the jobless numbers on Thursdays. The jobless claims are expected to remain more or less the same, around 225,000, down from 227,000 last week. This, of course, inflation, jobless numbers is arguments for interest rates and Fed. Two of the Fed chair members will talk during the week, and I believe that now you will finally start to hear that there will be a pressure to reduce the interest rates, and I believe the interest rates will cut more than expected, fueling the markets, especially for the last part of 2025. I started the podcast saying that it would be a short one. I will keep my word, and I also said that I will be heading for I will be away, so I'm not sure exactly when I will be back. But next week, for sure, I will not be making podcast. Hopefully the week after, we will have to see. We will end this podcast, which, by the way, was recorded on a new system, Riverside. I hope it works. And maybe sound quality will be better. I don't know. If it works well, we'll use it moving forward. Last thing on the agenda is, of course, to be happy about crypto, happy to see Bitcoin pushing towards $120,000 per Bitcoin. Also told you that that was a good place to be, and my portfolio is super happy these days. Another thing that made me happy last week was, of course, NIO, which finally started to move a little bit, going up to $3.90 on Friday. And that means that the $1,000 challenge is sitting at $3,104. So 1,000 has become 3,104. And I think and I hope that NIO finally will be moving faster and more. The analysts are agreeing with me that there seems to be a huge upside potential in NIO, and I have taken such a personal bet into NIO outside the $1,000 challenge, which just is a thing I made so you could follow and you could see and track. This means I will stay in NIO. I will tell you when I sell NIO, and I will tell you before I buy anything new into the $1,000 challenge. I hope next time I will be online that we can see NIO far up in the $5 range, and that we can have the $1,000 challenge back at record levels. We were touching $4,000. We had to take a downturn, currently at $3,104. I believe hopefully soon we can be back on the way to 10,000 and then grow it even more as we'll split into several stocks. And you, my friend, if you liked what you heard, subscribe and like. That is how we can make the channel grow and keep it alive. And if you didn't like it, that is fine as well. You can use the thumb down on the YouTube video. Anyway, I hope that your portfolio will be much greener by the end of the week. I hope you will have a super week, and of course, I hope you will be back when I will be back. Bye.